Hey, everybody, welcome to module number 4 called Comparing What They Say. So, we started off with what did you say? Like, what did I see? How would I retell that, right? And then being able to retell what they said. And then when was able to create my own message, and then I was able to take someone else's message, and then I could react to it. And that was our last paper. We're moving now into a little bit deeper of that meaning. So if we can go through and we can say, hey, here's what this person is saying, and here's what I feel about it, that shows a lot of understanding, right? So now we're going to take that and we're going to apply it. We're going to be able to look at this and we're going to be able to look at this and say, this is what they're saying and this is what they're saying, and then do some analysis. Be able to show how they're dissimilar, how they're similar, and why that really matters. So that's going to be the goal of module number 4. So if you take a look here, it gives our learning materials and our module assignments. It has a list of that. Also has a list of our objectives. And then we've got some different pieces, but the big piece here that we're going to be working on in this module is the comparative analysis. So this week, you will be putting in the first draft or the half draft of your comparative analysis. Now, when we talk about comparative analysis, I always like to say that this is like the compare and contrast paper, right? But I think that the problem is that compare and contrast got a really bad name in high school when you were assigned that paper, because it was like compare and contrast these two things, right? And you never really got to like the meaning of that paper. And the meaning of that paper is the why. Okay. So if I show like, here's all this thing here, and here's all this thing here, and this is where they overlap, okay, how they're different, how they're similar, that's easy, right? But the real question is, why does it matter? What does it say? So, for instance, if you think about McDonald's and Burger King, okay, they both serve cheeseburgers. They both serve cheeseburgers. I mean, they both cheeseburgers, fries, Cokes. They're the same like that, right? That's how they're similar. How are they different? Well, McDonald's fries their burgers, and Burger King flame broils theirs. Okay, so those are differences. Now, the question is, why does that really matter? Well, because when you go to McDonald's, you're looking for that speed, right? And because they're frying and because they're trying to get you out on speed, the price is a little less. But when you go to Burger King, because they flame broil and they do each of them individually, you expect to pay a little bit more, and you expect it to be a little bit more time, right? Because it's a different process. And that's the why. Why does this matter? So if you think about when you go into your classes and you're in your major areas, you're going to get this kind of assignment where you see two different things. Like, here's what we do, here's what this person says, analyze that, right? And that's where we're going to be looking at this. So again, our objective here is to critically analyze and compare two closed theme readings. We're going to be able to say, how are they similar, how are they different, and why does that matter? The half draft of your paper will be 450 to 600 words, okay? For the half draft, your final draft will be looking around 1,000 words, okay? And then you will use either MLA or APA style, whichever you prefer, okay? And we're going to use two readings. Now, one of them could be one that you've already read. It could be the one that you wrote for the first major paper, and you could take it and then compare it to another one. That's fine. It could be two new ones. It could be something that you haven't written about, but you read in your closed theme, readings, right? Like your closed theme reactions or your check-in. So you have a lot of different options. And again, that's why we do that check-in, so that you have a variety of works to look at. So what are some elements of that comparative analysis essay? So obviously, we want to start with that really analytical thesis statement. What does that mean? So that in our introduction, we have like the titles and the authors, right? And we want to have that. What is the one big thing we're looking at? What is the one kind of approach we're taking? And then in the analytical thesis statement, can you start to hint at the position you're going to take? This is good because, this is important to note because, right? Like, show us where you're going with that, okay? The introduction also has that attention getter, right? As well as ending with that thesis statement. Now, I don't want to say that you have to end with the thesis statement. We know that in the real world, there's a lot of latitude. But remember, anytime you change things up, your audience might question why. And so, it's always good to keep that in mind. In the body paragraph, so I should see a summary explanation of one, a summary explanation of two, where you show those similarities and differences. And then I need to see that analysis piece, that why. Why does it matter? What is significant about that difference or that similarities? We are using APA or MLA style, like I said before. Now, again, like I've said last or 2 weeks ago, right? The half draft, the expectation is that you will produce the first half of the paper, somewhere between 450 and 500, 600 words. That's the expectation. But several of you, and it was awesome that you did, several of you turned in full papers or very close to full papers. Remember, the more you give me, the more feedback you're going to get, right? And so you have, but it's like I did half the paper and I only got a little bit of feedback, right? And no one looked at the second half. This week also, we're going to do some peer evaluations. We're going to be sharing our papers with each other. And so again, it really helps that people have like a fuller picture. There's more that they can reply to, more that they can offer you some feedback. The expectation is half, and that is perfectly acceptable. But I always like to recommend the more you can do, the better, especially because now it makes the next week a little bit easier. The half draft is due this module, module 4. The final draft will be due in module 5. Okay. One of the things that this module is going to give you is this piece here, how to annotate a text. And I really like this. I really like this because I think that so often, and maybe it started in your high school days, but definitely in your college days. I don't know if we've ever taught you how to annotate. Like, it's like, just read it and take some notes, whatever, right? And we just expect you to do it. The purpose of annotations really isn't so we can see you read a text, right? Like, that's really not the benefit of annotation. We know that there are certain things that we can do to help you understand a text better, right? There's certain things we can do. We know that if we can make you interact with a text, highlighting, circling, writing those questions, whatever they might be, anytime you interact with the text, the better you're going to understand it, the more deeply you're going to understand it. So that's a great reason why we do annotations. Another great reason for annotations is it slows you down, right? Like if we gave you something to read, just and you read it, right? But annotation forces you to slow down. And we know that if we can slow you down, you're going to get more of that text. So this video walks you through, and there's some exercises in here about how to annotate a text, which I really recommend will be very beneficial, not just in this class, but in all of your classes. We have another closed research theme reading check-in. This time we want you to pick 2 of the readings, again, like last time, 2 readings. And then we want you to address one of these questions, right? Pick at least one of these questions to address. I like the variety that you guys have been finding. I like how you've been reaching out and getting different texts. I like how a lot of you are starting to notice like the variety of main ideas, even though it's all food in society. There's a lot of variety in that you're finding. And I really like that you are noticing that. We have this week's discussion board. And this is kind of an interesting one. It's a little bit different for us. One of my old textbooks, we used to have this piece. I still bring it up in my face-to-face class. I still use it. It's writing with the reader's eye and reading with the writer's eye. And we always talk about, like, when you're writing your work, you always want to put yourself in the shoes of the reader, right? Like, how are they going to understand this? Are you going to meet their needs? What do they want? What are they expecting, right? And so I think we have a good idea of that. But I also like when we read something, can we put ourselves in that person's shoes? Can we really understand where they're coming from, what they did to get there? What were those challenges? What were the things that they had to overcome? What were the things that they did that clicked or didn't click with me, right? So this discussion board is inside of that they say, I say kind of framework, where you're going to create posts as if you were that author, okay? So there's some instructions here how to do it. I really like this. Now, this is not a creative writing class, so there's not that kind of did you match the voice and did you match all these things, But it's this idea that you understand what their focus was, where they were coming from, what was the thing that was guiding and shaping them, right? So your initial post is putting in the voice of the selected character, so to speak, right? And think of some questions that you might be asked by the audience that you're answering. Okay. Now, when you're doing your responses and when you go in and you read somebody else's work and you create that response to that, here are some ways that you might respond, some questions that or some ways that you might approach it. So I really like this. Again, I don't want you to get scared. It's not a creative writing class. It's not like that. But it's this idea that you get a sense of where the author is coming from. Okay. I do want to remind you of the expectations for the discussion board. Obviously, we wanted you to interact with the board multiple times on multiple days. This is a conversation. You kind of keep dipping in and out. If you get in, make your post, and you just reply to 2 or 3 posts real quick, you're not really getting it, and you're not adding to that conversation. You're just throwing some comments out there. So it's really beneficial to everybody, not just your grade, but everybody. If you're in there interacting with it, to get the most possible points, you do need to, respond to more than the minimum. The minimum is 2. But when you get to more people than that, you're adding to that conversation, and there's where you get to build up some of your points. I also like to remind people that, and I haven't seen this as a problem yet, but I do want to remind you that this is a place where we discuss the issues. We're not judging the person. We're not judging their thoughts. We're not looking at who did it better, who did it better, who did it right. We're not debating the topic. We're sharing our ideas. We're sharing our reactions. I saw that you wrote this, and here's what I think, okay? So please keep that in mind. We do want it to be a respectful area. We do have some additional information about the comparative analysis and how to compare text. This slideshow gives you a lot of really good information. Again, if you think about like right here, you have what's different. When you're looking at this Venn diagram here, the red and the blue, those are what's different. The purple, how are they similar? But the real big key will be, can you explain why that really matters? What is the significance of that? So that will give you some really good information on how to attack and approach that. And then we also have this worksheet here. This worksheet is kind of cool because it kind of walks you through the process of breaking that down, finding the similarities, finding the differences, finding where you get that overlap and where things are separate. It also gives you some questions to ask yourself when you're looking at that text. I find this a very useful tool to get you started and to get you organized on your writing. And then finally, we come down to where you submit your half draft. Now, again, don't forget, half draft, that's the expectation. If you give more, you're doing great. If this is different this week, okay, you're actually going to submit your half draft twice, okay? Once here, where you'll get feedback from me, okay? And this is just like you did last time, right? This also includes the rubric of how your grades will be broken down, right? So when I grade your first draft or your half draft and I give you that feedback, this is the rubric that I'll be using to grade it with. But you're also going to post it here. And this is where you're going to get the feedback from your classmates next week. Now, the thing to remember is, and notice here, the link is right here. We provided the link right here for you, okay? You're actually going into module 5, okay? So you take the half draft, you submit it in 4 for me, and you go to week 5 and you submit it there, and that's where you're going to be responding to each other, okay? Now, there's nothing you have to do this week for it other than submit it, okay? Other than submit it. That information will be in module number 5, okay? So again, like I've said before, and I will keep reminding you again and again and again, is that don't suffer in silence. Do not suffer in silence. Make sure you're reaching out. Make sure you're asking people your classmates, your counselors, you're going to the writing center on your local campus, you're contacting me and you're saying, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm struggling with. I need some help. Don't suffer in silence. Make sure you're reaching out. Again, email is always the best way to get a hold of me. But if you need another method, we can definitely work that out. And by the way, I do want to point out, I am in my garage tonight. I am recording this on Sunday night, and it is a nice night out. It's halftime of the football game. So, of course, I wanted to make this video for you. So that's why we're sitting out here. Hey, guys, have a great module number 4, and good luck, everybody.